You are watching the Fayetteville Government Channel. Up next, full coverage of the latest meeting of the Fayetteville Council of Neighborhoods. The Council of Neighborhoods is composed of citizen volunteers and meets on the last Thursday of each month. The Council of Neighborhoods provides a forum for neighborhood associations to share information, concerns, and ideas, and provides a mechanism to communicate with elected officials and governmental agencies. And now, the Fayetteville Council of Neighborhoods.
September 27th meeting of the Fayetteville Council of Neighborhoods, and a little different tonight. We're having a candidate forum event. First hour will be a mayoral discussion of questions that we picked out in our committee meeting last week. They were solicited on social media and conventional media, and we have 15 questions. It's an informational forum, 1 hour long, at the end of which the ward candidates will introduce themselves. And so that'll be after the first hour of this part of the meeting. Dr. Fiona Davidson of the University of Arkansas will be our moderator, and she will ask the questions. And we have a timing device over here and she will explain to you the order in which we ask the questions and the timing for these. I haven't introduced myself. My name is Richard Russell, and I'm the chair of the Fayetteville Council of Neighborhoods. So, without further ado, Ms. Davidson, would you like to...
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I am obviously not Kyle Kellums, who did this last year, but I will do my best to keep this running smoothly. The order of the speaking has been arranged by a coin toss, which was won by Mayor Jordan. He has chosen to go first with his opening statement, and he will also get the first question. The rules for the order of the debate: each candidate will get a 3-minute opening statement. When we turn to the questions, the first candidate will get a 3-minute question. They will then have the floor will then pass to the second candidate, who will get 3 minutes for a response. It will return back for a 1-minute rebuttal to the first candidate, and then back to the second candidate for a 1-minute rebuttal. For the next question, the order of candidate responses will be switched. So the response will switch to the second candidate. The debate will last an hour. We have questions previously submitted, as already mentioned. There are probably more questions than we will have time to get to. I have shuffled them, so the questions will appear randomly as of the questions that were submitted. Once the period for questions has ended, each candidate will receive a 3-minute period for a final statement. And so if we're ready to begin, gentlemen.
Well, good evening. I want to thank the Council of Neighborhoods for sponsoring this event. It's wonderful to have you here. I'd like to start with my opening statement, and I want to take everybody back to 2009. And what I inherited is the mayor of the city of Fayetteville. What I inherited was an absolute nightmare. When I came into office, I looked at the city budget. The city budget had been predicted to be a 3% growth in the city of Fayetteville. We not only did not hit the 3% growth, the declining economy caused the sales tax to be down 5%. That's an 8% swing. So the first thing we had to do was to start to cut expenses in the city of Fayetteville. 3 weeks into my term, we had an ice storm, $6 million natural disaster. It was absolutely the worst natural disaster the city has ever seen. When I asked the staff, I brought them in and I said, I would like to know what the emergency plan is for the city of Fayetteville. They looked at me and they said, we don't have one. So we had to clean up the city without an emergency plan. So we basically had to start from scratch. I looked at the city debt, and when I looked at the city debt, I saw that the city debt in 2001 was actually $31 million. It was at $144 million when I took office. After we got through with the ice storm, I had to focus on the city finances. The challenge at that point in time was to cut expenses without cutting any services or staff or raising taxes. Now let's go to 2012. 4 years later, where are we? For the first time since I've been an elected official, we are presenting a balanced budget to the City Council for 2013. We cut $3.5 million of expenses after we were told year after year as aldermen that we couldn't cut anything. We couldn't cut any expenses without cutting staff or services, but we did. We built the reserves. When I took office, there was $9 million of reserves. In 2001, the reserves was 10.1, and through the best boom times the city has ever seen, when I take office, the reserves were down to 9.1. And if there's former aldermen in here, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But what have we done? We've cut the expenses. We built the reserves back where we have a cushion. We have a solid emergency plan. So the next 4 years, the nightmare has ended as of today. Now we plan for the future, and I am more than happy to share my vision for the city of Fayetteville as we go along in this forum. Thank you.
Thank you, and again, thank you for having us here tonight. Obviously, we need a civics lesson. First, I'll start by saying thank you all for coming tonight, and this is a very important election, and we hope everyone gets out to vote. There was a winter 2003-2004 emergency plan that was presented to the mayor, I understand, from the former fire chief, and the idea that there was no winter weather emergency plan is just false, because we put one together, and it's I have a copy of it back at my house somewhere, lost in my files, but they've got a copy here too. As far as the civic lesson for budgeting, $9 million in the bank is about 50% more than our cushion that we have. And when I was first elected, we put a cushion in there to where you could spin down this range. You know, you got how you want to spend your money and earn money back in. You've got a range in which to work. Below that, you want to kind of hit a floor and have that for rainy day fund. That's about $5 million. So we had millions above that cushion. So we were in very good financial shape. As far as debt goes, the way this city council works along with every other city council like this in Arkansas, the city council sets the budget. Now the mayor presents a budget to the council slices and dices, puts it back together, and once the council approves that budget's handed back to the mayor. So the 8 years that Mayor Jordan was alderman and I was mayor, every one of those 8 years, I was working with a budget that had been approved by the mayor, Jordan, and the city council. So if there was this disaster, which there was not, that's an image that's being perpetrated that's just not true. If there were a disaster, guess who put it together? And I think this is something that needs to be addressed, because this rumor is being spread throughout the community and it's just not true. We have, there was a lot of things in here. I've got notes on every one of these points. The one point about the increased city net assets by $33.7 million in 4 years. My last 4 years in office, those net assets increased $181 million, which is 5 times as much. We were able to do more with less money coming in than the Jordan administration has had. In the last 4 years, there's been $5 million more dollars coming into the coffers because of increased sales tax than what I had to work with. Now, when I was in office, we built the trail system, the senior center, botanical garden, the jump start of the botanical garden, the library, rebuilt the square, College Avenue, completely overhauled our sewer system, put a road bond issue out there to rebuild our roads. We did all this work with less money coming in than we have now. And it was because we had a city council and mayor that worked together to get this work done and out the door, but it took leadership and a creativity and innovation to make this happen. It didn't happen easily, but we found ways to leverage city assets to where we wouldn't just have to ding the taxpayer anytime we needed to do something. We could use the private sector and get money from them, as we did with South Pass, 200 acres for free given to us for a community park. That's it. All right. This 3 minutes isn't as long as I anticipated.
There's
a lot to talk about tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, for your first question, beginning, of course, with Mayor Jordan, what are your short and long-term plans for Dixon Street?
Well, right now we've been looking at a parking situation for about 20 years. We've talked about a parking deck for years and years and years. The short and long term is that we have got to develop the downtown area. And the way we're going to have to do that, we're going to have to address the parking issues in the downtown area. We talked about that for years. I sat on a council, we talked about it 2003 and on. We presented a plan in 2005. And I certainly want to thank the former mayor, because basically the plan that we brought forward to the city council in 2010 was basically his plan. We put residential on it and we passed it unanimously by the city council. Now what we're going to address now with that, we're going to develop the downtown area. It will help us develop the downtown area with that parking deck. Also, we will be able to take care of the growth of the University of Arkansas, which has grown from 17,000 students to over 25,000 students, so that increased the needs for parking. Also, we have another big apartment complex going in on Lafayette with about 900 more apartments. Now, I know that they're going to have parking spaces for every apartment, but that means that they're going to have friends and they're going to come to town and they're going to need a place to park. And we're providing parking basically, it's 50 cents an hour after 2 p.m. and then after 5 it's $1 an hour with a $5 max that goes all the way to the next afternoon, 2 p.m. So we discussed that for 6 months. First I took a resolution to the council. They passed a resolution. We spent 6 months talking about it, took it back to the council, it passed unanimously, and we took it back in the fall, we took it back in December. And we fully vetted that in the public. I find it interesting that the former mayor did not show up for any of those meetings. But in 2012, he showed up when we were looking at a deck in the downtown area. So one of the main things we're going to do is take care of the parking. We're going to support the WAC. As you know, they just announced that they're going to do a $20 million expansion of the present WAC facility. It's still on the master plan for a theater within the next 15 years. We got to be looking at that. We have to look at the overall picture and where this city's going in the future. And I think we've addressed that, and I think we're doing well. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Number one, the 2010 implementation of whatever plan was put down there had none of my fingerprints on it, and it's not true that that was inherited from me. That could not be farther from the truth. Let me tell you what was inherited from me. We went out to the private sector and said we didn't want to sink a bunch of public money on a public piece of land and build an ugly parking garage. We were smarter than that. What we wanted to do was develop a uniform parking system that was reasonable, it wasn't complicated, it was simple. We want to bring in the private sector and let them build our parking garage. They were going to bring in, and this is all in the city records, a 200,000 square foot development. We got 3 bids, a 200,000 square foot development. They were going to build commercial, retail, infill, and live-work units, and a performing arts hall or a museum, and they were going to build all the requisite parking for that, and a 500-place parking deck, all on their own dime. Now, this would have been in private hands at this point, so the private sector would have been building this garage for us, plus we'd be getting then property tax, which we won't get if we do this current plan, and sales tax, which we won't get if we do this current plan, and the entire deck would have been hidden by beautiful commercial, well-designed buildings to match the downtown master plan, which we will not get in this plan. This parking system we have in place is not sane. There are about 10 different ways you can get a ticket downtown, and I don't care if people think it's great and it's making money and everybody's happy. It has not done this town any good, and it's got to be reinvented and streamlined and made to where it's simple. We need to make it to where you can park at downtown easily. If you want to plug a meter like you do down here, we need to have one downtown. There's no reason to have 5 downtowns in Fayetteville. It's not that big a town. Why we can't have meters, 1 pole, 2 meters, where you step out of your car, plug a meter if you want to. Quick, easy, simple. Free after 5 o'clock, free on weekends. Why can't we make it just like downtown? It's been 2 years now, and there's been no real effort to repair what's been done, and it's driving people crazy down there. Now, the plan for downtown. We need to draw a circle around the Walton Arts Center. I'm guessing 20 acres. And we need to look at the Walton Arts lot and all the other asphalt down there and bring the community in with some good designers that we have locally and develop a plan that looks at all that asphalt, that sea of asphalt out there. And we need to incorporate more green space, a little place where we can put a public art, a civic space. Maybe we can design some streets where they're not only good for traffic, but you can close them off and use them for events and festivals as well. There's a lot we can do. It just takes imagination and vision and drive, and we can do anything we want down there. People thought we couldn't do anything with college, this section out here, now look at it. There's still a lot of room for improvement, but to think that we can't do something even more spectacular around the Walton Arts Center, we're missing a bet, because we need to do what we can to revitalize and bring more and more people downtown to enjoy those businesses.
Thank you, Mr. Coody. Mayor Jordan?
I would challenge you to go back to the November 1st, 2005 City Council meeting and read those minutes, and you will know exactly what happened. I'm telling you the truth. What he's telling you is not true. You need to look at those minutes and read them. It's almost the exact same plan that was passed in 2010. The problem Mr. Coody's having is he simply could not get it done and get a council working together to get it done, and I did. Now, if you want to talk about a public-private partnership, the reason I'm not real crazy about those, I have seen how they work. Remember the rusty crane with the big hole in the ground that sat there for 3 years? Anybody remember South Pass that went bankrupt? You know, we didn't even have a deed for that. I had to negotiate that deed. So that's my response to that. Thank you.
Wow, where to start? The TIF district, you voted for that as hard as anybody else and supported just like everybody else did. Bobby Farrell was the only one to vote against it, and if you read those minutes, you'll see that both of us supported it. The whole plan for the TIF district was tear the mountain end down, which we needed to do, clean the lot, transfer that at the assessed value to the private developers, and that's when the economy crashed and they couldn't get it built. It's a shame that hotel never got built there. South Pass, I don't know how anybody could consider a failure of us needing 200 acres or 150 acres really of parkland for a park, that instead of us having to go buy and write a check for 150 acres, which would have been a couple of $1 million easily, we had 200 acres given to us with $1 million on top of that that'll be coming when the land around it develops. To think that that free gift to us is somehow a failure, I would take it in a minute. If somebody said, here's $200, $1 million, no strings attached, I'd take it in a minute, and I'd think that wasn't a failure.
Thank you, gentlemen. What is your record on alternative transportation, and what are your proposals for expanding mass and alternative transportation, including bikes, buses, trails, and sidewalks, after the defeat of the transit tax in May?
Am I the one? Okay.
Sorry.
Basically, of course, the fabulously popular trail started in my administration. I tried to get it started back in 1991 when I was on the city council, but I was about 10 years ahead of my time. So I got elected mayor in 2001, and then we started putting together a program to get the trail system built. This one's modeled after Madison, Wisconsin, and it's worked beautifully. It was a rough start at first because people thought it was a waste of money. Now it has a life of its own, and the real estate around the trail system is some of the hottest real estate in town now. That alternative transportation system has to be continued and expanded, and I'm very glad the Waltons have funded the Greenway Trail going from here to Bella Vista. That's going to be phenomenal. As far as expanding other alternative situations, I think we need to, one of the first things we need to do is rebuild College Avenue, not stop with these from Rock to Maple that we did when I was in office. Go ahead and expand that beautification and plan for an even better job to have bike lanes or some kind of trail or some kind of alternative transportation built in the rebuilding of College Avenue, but also plan for alternative transportation so we can put in public transportation, I should say, so we could plan for pull-outs for clean fuel buses and or trolleys. That's up for discussion. But when we rebuild College Avenue, we need to plan for more than what we just did out here. This was a good first start, but we have more room up north to do better work for more public and alternative transportation. And if more we can get people on bikes and out of their cars, the more fossil fuel we don't burn, the healthier we are, and that brings more of a creative vibe into town. Now, when people come to Fayetteville, Arkansas, and they see this trail system, they think this is a town I can live in. Procter & Gamble moved where they are because of the trail system. And they recruit their employees, which don't want to come to Arkansas until they come to Fayetteville, they hit the trails, and they say, I can live here. And the trail system in Fayetteville has proven to be so popular. Other cities all across northwest Arkansas and other places in the state are starting to adopt the same programs. When I was in office, we did things that other cities copied. We led the way with innovation and creativity. Since I've been out of office, it's as if the other cities don't want to copy things anymore, especially this parking system downtown and this how we do business now, the back-end parking on block streets, another example of things that I don't see anybody else doing. And this kind of thinking, I know it's not a single person doing it, it's a whole collective, but as long as we keep putting out these projects, and obviously they don't work, but we don't go back and correct them, we just continue to move forward and pretend like everything's okay. We can't keep doing this in Fayetteville over another 4 years and expect that everything's going to be all right.
Thank you. Mayor Jordan?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that I was a big proponent of the trail system. I was one of the aldermen that voted for the first funding for the trail system.
That's true.
Excuse me.
I said that's, I was agreeing with you.
Okay. And so later on, when I was the chair of the street committee, we put trails on the street bond program. So a lot of the funding was done through a bunch of dedicated street committee aldermen on that bond program. Now, as far as mass transit, I am a huge proponent of mass transit. I stood on the street corners with the folks that was pushing for mass transit because we've got to get out of the car and in the bus or on the bike, and I pushed hard for mass transit. I stood on street corners, made speeches before people, and it failed. But you know what? I'm proud of that vote. My opponent did not even vote in that election. It would not have mattered to me if he was against it or if he was for it. But to not even vote, that's like saying it really doesn't matter. And it mattered to me, and I know it mattered to you. It's where people can get on a bus and go to work. It's where the elderly can get on that bus and be moved from the grocery store back to home. And that's how important that mass transit is. We need to support that for the future of this city. I'm working with Fort Smith right now, the second and third largest cities in the state, to bring water transportation up the Arkansas River. If we can move supplies and move people even up to Fort Smith and then bring everything by rail. I'm working with the Arkansas-Missouri Railroad right now to try and bring passenger rail back to the city of Fayetteville and up through the region. I'm to meet with them next week. So that's some of the initiatives that we're doing on alternative transportation.
Thank you. This is 1 minute rebuttal. Okay, thank you. Of course, we support public transportation, and I've always supported public transportation. And my question would be, if I say something that's like a public accusation or something I'm proven wrong, I have the habit of correcting that publicly. So if it's been proven that I did vote in that election, then I would be very glad to have an apology from the mayor. And it turns out, when I heard last night during the debate that I hadn't voted, I thought, whoa, something's wrong here. Nobody could be that blatantly wrong. There must be some kind of catch here. So we went to the county courthouse today, and of course I did vote, and I voted for the transit tax. I was split down the middle about my decision because I support transit tax, and two women, one was Joyce Hale, another was a friend of mine with a physical handicap, that basically talked me into supporting it. But the problem I had was putting a permanent sales tax in place, because sales tax is regressive and it hurts the lower income people the most. So, but I wound up supporting it, and I did vote in that election.
Thank you. Mayor Jordan?
Well, I have the voting records here, and if anybody would like to look at them, they're for your review. We went to the courthouse too, and we have the voting records here. I guess that's all I'll say.
Thank you, gentlemen. Next question. Mayor Jordan? Given the university plans to expand enrollment to 30,000 students, how does the city plan for the expanded university presence and housing needs of the additional students? How do you plan to combine that with the impact on the neighboring residents?
Well, that's a great question. It's all about putting people together and forming partnerships. Right now, we're setting in place through a town hall meeting, and I can't take total credit for that, but Kathy Short and Donna Daniels brought that forward at a town hall meeting one night. So we looked into doing a town and gown committee, which will be put together, and this first meeting will be in October, where the university and the city can sit down at a table and how do we plan growth in this city, incorporating the University of Arkansas, because these students are also citizens of this city, at least for 4 years. So we have to bridge that gap between the two groups, and I think this town and gown will be very successful in doing that. There's going to be 21 people involved in that committee, and I'm very excited about that. So that's one of the ways that we build a partnership between the City of Fayetteville and the University of Arkansas. We also look at, I have a wonderful staff and I have a wonderful city council, and they look at every project that comes and to the city. And I have complete and total trust in my staff to do the right thing. I have complete and total trust in the city council to do the right thing. And together we will properly plan the growth of the University of Arkansas and the city together.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to go back to the previous question just for 1 minute, because the voting record was flawed, the one that the mayor has. When they copied those, the bottom 2 names on the list were left off because the scanner didn't pick up the bottom 2 names. Mine was one of those 2 names. So here is the accurate reflection of the voting record right there, and I would appreciate an apology.
If that is true, I certainly apologize.
Their top one right there. They apologize for the inconvenience of the county courthouse today.
Okay.
Now then, as far as growth between the university and the city, that's the university. That's the question, right?
Yes.
The university is the heartbeat of this community. If it weren't for the university, we'd just be another Arkansas backwater city. The university makes Fayetteville what it is. It's growing exponentially. This when they expanded the tuition to out-of-state, in-state tuition out-of-state students surrounding, and then the big draw was the ballot that passed for the lottery, which gave a lot of tuitions to new students. The freshman enrollment skyrocketed. So in light of all this growth, we really need to work with the city's downtown master plan and the city's 2030 plan, and we need to work with the university's master plan, overlay them with each other. And as far as these mega student housing off-campus complexes go, we need to find a way, and I don't have the perfect answer for it yet, but a logical answer would be that we should design some kind of an overlay district in an appropriate spot around the university where those can kind of cluster together. Like, we don't need them to just spring up randomly around town just because some particular piece of real estate came available and it was big enough to put one of these huge apartment complexes on, coming to a lot near you. And then the citizens are left dealing with the traffic congestion, the construction, all the hassles that come with having a huge, dense development in perhaps not the most appropriate spot. The closer it can be to the university, preferably adjoining or adjacent to the university, is going to be a much better position. The thing about these big apartment complexes is that they don't even really stimulate the local economy that much. Yes, they make housing for students, which is fine, but they bring in all their own materials from out of state, and they bring in all their own laborers from out of state. All they buy here is they basically pour concrete. The rest is all labor and materials from out of state. So we don't see the kind of economic boon that we would like to see from the sale of materials and the hiring of our workers here. So we've got a lot to do to really work closely with the university, but they are our lifeblood in this community. And the main thing I really want to see us do is couple with the Research and Technology Park, because Fayetteville's future is going to be tied to the arts and technology. Springdale's got Tyson, the meat production. Bentonville has the retail. Lowell has the logistics. We have research technology. And those are the 4 pillars that we need to build Northwest Arkansas on.
Thank you. Mayor Jordan.
We will continue to work with the University of Arkansas. I welcome the relationship we have with them. We have a great relationship. Probably the Chancellor will tell you it's probably one of the best relationships that the university and the city's ever had, and we'll continue to move along with that.
Thank you. You can do it.
That's fine.
Okay. Sorry, looking at the phrasing of this. Pay parking in the entertainment district is here to stay. We seem to all have agreed on that, and it is apparently a good revenue source. However, there are clearly problems associated with it. Will this funding source lead to additional parking? If so, where? And what do you envision as the solution to sorting out the problems that have been identified with the current system?
Am I first on this one?
You are first on this one.
Well, it is here to stay because, as I said earlier, if we had free parking down there, campus parking is so expensive, the students would load it up just like they are over on Isla Street and around Wilson Park area. They park there all day and go to campus. The same thing would happen downtown if we had free parking 8 to 5. So I would propose that we do a simpler project, like do these meters. And most people understand that, yes, they may not be the prettiest thing, but what we have down there is not a workable solution. It's got to be fixed. So my plan would be to visit with a bunch of folks, and I'm talking about bringing the businesses, the residents, the employees, everybody that has a dog in this fight, bring them in so we can solve all the problems, because it's not just the meters. It's not just how you pay and the times and the random different times, different places, you booted here, towed there, $15 there, $70 there, 8 to 6 there, 2 to 2 there, 7 days here, 5. Crazy. It's all got to be kind of streamlined, one system. The problem that we have right now is that we're not using the paid parking program to manage parking. We're using the paid parking program to make money. And that's a whole different can of worms. And it makes a lot of money. And I don't think that money is good to take out of the patrons' pockets and stuff into the bank here at City Hall. I think that's counterproductive. I would propose that we go down to like 50 cents an hour instead of $1 an hour, 8 to 5. Yes, we're not going to make as much money. We're going to leave the money in the pockets of the people who want to go down to Dixon Street and have a beer, go to a play, have a good time. And when they're down there, they're not having to worry about whether they're going to get towed or booted or ticketed. That's got to be solved. So once we do that, we'll be able to, it'll take a while because it's taken 2 years to get the reputation of people not coming down to Dixon Street like they used to, the reputation of being very unwelcoming. We'll have to rebuild that reputation, and it's going to take more than 2 years to rebuild what we used to have down there, but it's got to be done. We've got to add more parking. The best way to do that is to develop the parking that we already have. It's already paid for, it already exists. Why not go ahead and use the existing decks that we have downtown that are virtually unused after dark, some of them are very underutilized. Instead of spending $10 million on this parking garage, use some of that to put new sidewalks in with street lights, make downtown more walkable. Maybe get an electric shuttle like they have at Crystal Bridges where you could hop on, hop off, access some of these parking lots, free ride, fun, to where when you go down to Dixon Street, you can come down to one of these downtown restaurants, have a good meal, hop on a thing, go down and have a beer, go have a play afterwards. The whole downtown becomes one single, vibrant, interesting, fun, laid back downtown again, like it needs to be.
Would you repeat that question for me?
Yeah, we agree that pay parking in the entertainment district is here to stay and has become a good revenue source, but it is also agreed that there are problems with the current system. What do you envision as the possibilities for increasing parking in the future, where, and solving the current problems?
Well, what I'm hearing right now is not so much the paid parking program of the city, but more of the private lot owners. 90% of the complaints that I've heard over the last year have come from private lot owners, not the city lots, because the city does not boot and they don't tow unless they're parked someplace in somebody's driveway or something. We don't boot, we don't tow. So when you get towing, that's from the private lot owners. Right now, we're in negotiations, and have been for the last few years, to see if we can come to some sort of solution to where the city and the private lot owners can work together. But right now, we're at odds, and we have been, not at odds, but we've been trying to come to some sort of agreement since 2009. I believe we're going to get there. I mean, and as far as a meter at every place, right now, if you go into a restaurant, you know, the kiosks that we have, you can sit at a restaurant a block away and use a telephone and and renew the money or where you pay to park, the payment from a restaurant. It's very simple, it's very easy. It's the same sort of kiosks that the University of Arkansas uses. Anybody can work them. I've gone down there. There was a lady, and I never worked one before, and I walked up to her, and she says, I'm having trouble working this kiosk, and it was very simple. We just went through the steps, just like you do at the university. It's very easy. They are solar powered. And after the 6 months of public input, then what they basically said was, this is what the people want. They don't want a meter at every space. When we did the downtown Dixon Street improvement, the one thing that they did not want was a meter at every space. Now, I don't know how we're going to end the confusion if you have some of them with coins and then some of them with credit cards, one a kiosk and then a meter at every space. That seems like that adds to the confusion. We do need to work with the private lot owners, but we have the system in place. Now, if you shut this system down and you start all over again, you have basically spent $1 million of taxpayers' money to buy the equipment, then that's still got to be paid for. We're working out the kinks. We've made adjustments to it. Was it a perfect plan? Probably not. but we continue on with it, and we will get the job done, and things are going fine, and we are working with the private lot owners. It does take some adjustment, but I think we're doing well.
Working for 3 years to negotiate a deal with lot owners is, I'm not optimistic it's going to happen anytime soon. One of the problems that we have down there is that there's almost an ageism, an age discrimination. Yes, young people were texting cell phones. I mean, it's for a 20-year-old, it's a piece of cake to pay by phone. But not everybody goes down there. Now they're all 20, because the older you are, from my anecdotal observation, the less likely you are to go down there and screw with those machines. They don't always work. Sometimes you put a 5 in there wanting to get some money back and it takes your whole 5 or a 20, or different situations like that. That system has to be completely reinvented. Yes, it'll be confusing, but the only thing worse than that is leaving it as it is.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Cootie had 8 years to work on working out something with the private lot owners. I know that you can go back to the history if you look at the timeline, and Sharon Waters will provide that with you. He tried to work out the situation with the private lot owners, and he tried for 8 years and couldn't get anything done. I should have at least another 5 to work on it, I would think. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Jordan, what is your vision of environmentally friendly development for Fayetteville?
Okay. Well, I know that we are working right now on, we just passed the 2009 building codes for the city of Fayetteville. We're the first one in the state of Arkansas to do that, and I'm very proud of that. I served on some of the committees in the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and we took the ASHRAE code to that and was passed, and I was one of the lead sponsors on that. I'm very proud of that, the building codes that's used all over the United States now. We want to be green. This city is not just, you just don't build it any which way in the city of Fayetteville. I just talked to some folks today, and they said, well, they thought that it was too strict, that we were too tough to build in. And I guess in some regards we are. But that's what separates us from any other city in the region and many in the United States. We believe in conserving energy. One of the things that we're working on in the city of Fayetteville, besides the list that I read last night, is that we're working on papercrete right now, which is something you make from paper and some Portland and some sand, and you mix that together. I actually built one of those bricks in a blender at home. It didn't work very well for the blender, but it made a fantastic building product. And when you looked at that, and we're trying to perfect that now in the city of Fayetteville, if we can do that, we can build affordable housing for pennies on the dollar. And for every half inch of that papercrete, that's like 4 inches of insulation. So it is a tremendous thing, product that we're working on. Of course, we did the solar array down at the library. I'm very proud of that. But the main thing that we're doing is a green collar workers training center where we train workers in the green collar jobs of tomorrow, and that is so terribly important because a lot of the craftsmen are losing their jobs all across the United States, but now we're retraining those craftsmen in this new job market. And we were one of 3 cities in the state of Arkansas to receive a center of excellence, and I'm very proud of that. It took a large group of us business owners and labor activists and University of Arkansas and state reps and state senators, and we all went to Little Rock and worked together with the governor, and we now have a workers training center that's not only in the city of Fayetteville, but it's going on throughout the region. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, the Workers Training Center is very good, and I have the paperwork from the origins in this and how it was put together and where the funding came from, the people who put it together. And I appreciate that it's up in Northwest Arkansas, and the other places are North Little Rock and West Memphis and Bentonville. And I'm glad those things got put in. I don't see any Fayetteville names on this list, I'm afraid. But when we were in office, we put together a sustainability program, first one in the South, one of the first in the United States. We ripped off basically the job description out of Seattle and brought in John Coleman, who did a good job, and we saved $330,000 the first year. Everybody knows the story. But it's beyond just that. It's a whole mindset. Since I've been out of office, my wife and I just designed and built our little house on here in Mount Sequoia as a demonstration model to show builders, show homeowners, contractors, architects, Anybody who's interested, how you can build a super energy efficient home. And we were just certified, an independent third-party certifier, as by far, not just a little bit, but by far the most energy efficient home in the United States. So that's something we know very much about. And we've been passionate about energy efficiency and conservation and sustainability for a long time. And Fayetteville, when I was in office, we were developing a national reputation. I was taking a lot of different places, Washington, D.C., Seattle, Alaska, all on everybody else's dime, to really attend conferences and share what we had done, learn from other people. And Fayetteville was in the leading edge of what small cities were doing. As a matter of fact, it was through my involvement with the U.S. Conference of Mayors that I helped 60 other mayors in the United States do the same thing that we did, because they thought, we're not Seattle, we're not Portland, but if Fayetteville, Arkansas can do this, then we can do it too. So the year later, 60 more cities had developed sustainability offices. So with the right kind of leadership and vision and true understanding about how things work and how things can be done, we can be more sustainable, not just in energy efficiency. We've got to look at food sustainability and food security. We've got to look at energy consumption reduction. We've got to look at all the ways that we live and find out how we can be more efficient, sustainable. It'll save us money. It'll save us a lot of pollution. I think we can do a lot more than what we're doing right now. I think we have a good reputation, but I don't think we can rest on our laurels and think we're doing what we need to be doing, because we need to be pushing the envelope much more aggressively than we are now. And it takes somebody with passion and drive and leadership to get that done, and that's one of my passions.
Thank you.
Mine too. In fact, I want to say that we were the state's first had the first state's low impact development ordinance, the state's first energy efficient residential building code, the state's first streamside protection ordinance, the state's first solar biosolids drying facility, the first city named the AWF Governor's Conservationist of the Year, energy efficiency revolving loan fund for nonprofits, commercial recycling expansion and glass recycling. We're working on papercrete and an urban ag right ordinance. We're not sitting on our laurels.
Thank you.
The low impact developments is not an ordinance, is a list of suggestions. It's not an ordinance. What was the other one you said? The
state's first energy efficient residential building code.
That's the 2009 energy code. I'm glad we passed. It was a good thing and I supported it, but it's already 2012. And now they have the 2012 code out, so it might have been something we should have, instead of adopting a 3-year-old energy code, we could have saved more money and been a lot better return on our investment by adopting the 2012 energy code, because it's got a lot of advantages. The recycling started off backwards. The EEF is something that I helped start from the U.S. Conference of Mayors. The Governor's Award was for the Woolsey Wet Prairie, which we did when I was in office. So there's a lot to this environmental stuff where they're riding on my coattails, basically, and I'm proud to have somebody say, yay, that's good work, but I think the credit should be shared.
Oh, thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Coody, what are your plans to revitalize College Avenue? Please include your thoughts on economic, aesthetic, and traffic issues.
All three of those are equally important. That's what I call it is the scar across the beautiful face of our city. When I first came to town, when Deborah and I came here back in 1985, it was just, we drove in, and we thought, why would anybody live here? There's no there. And it was just obvious that something needed to be done. Now, College Avenue looks a lot better from Rock to Maple, where we did the sidewalks and street lights and street trees. That was nice, and some tree islands. Eventually, the plan is to have the elms, sycamores, and all those big native big trees arch over the road to where when you drive through the street, you'll be under a tunnel of leaves. It'll be just beautiful. But that's not good enough. That's a very narrow section of College. The more you go north, the road widens out, which gives us more opportunity. We need to get the power lines off the road. That's job number one. We might not be able to bury them, but we can go to mid-block easements and just get them off our thoroughfare. That way we can have wider sidewalks. We can plant trees that will get big, because you see they're nice trees here. That's because we didn't have any lines to deal with. We had some, we moved them. But if you have power lines, not only is that visual clutter there for the rest of our lives, you can't plant any trees there, so it's going to be forever ugly. It's not going to be easy. But if we plan for alternative transportations for bicycles, plan for pedestrians, plan for public transit by having, as I said earlier, pullouts for buses and actual bus stops and bus shelters, which is almost unheard of. I think it is unheard of in Fayetteville. That we can make College Avenue attractive and so vital, and we can I'd like to see us put incentives in place to where if a business wants to expand or relocate, that they would look at College Avenue first, because I don't know what that incentive might be. It's going to take a lot of discussion with a lot of smart people, and say, if you want to build on College Avenue, please build on one of these used car lots, tear that thing down, put a nice new building up there, do it to our code, do it to the downtown master plan, and start bringing new energy and new economic vitality. That thing is our economic engine, should be. Right now it's an economic death knell. Everything's boarded up. It's tattoo parlors, gentlemen's clubs, used car lots. That's not the best we can do. And we have to focus on that, but that's going to take a lot of energy and a lot of drive and a lot of tenacity. And when I see that we haven't really done anything more in the last 4 years than what we did when I was in office, I'm not optimistic that tenacity and drive is going to be there, because it is not going to be easy. I know how hard it was to do the first section, but now we know that it can be done, and better how to do it. So I'm optimistic that we can do it, but it's just going to take a lot of work and drive, and that's one of the things that I want to get done.
Thank you. Mayor Jordan?
Okay, I will tell you that I have College Avenue on the list in the next phase of the street bond program, which is something that I've had staff working on for several months, maybe closer to a year. I also want to, for the record, say that the former administration spent $800,000 on college, and I spent $9 million. So we were just as interested in finishing up that project. We could have just done it halfway and not finished it up, but we felt that we needed to continue the plan started. And I will give Mr. Cootie the credit for that. He worked with the street committee and he moved that forward, but he started it and I got the job done. You see, folks, it doesn't make any difference who really gets the credit as long as the job gets done. Doesn't matter who starts it, who finishes it. I never have been concerned about credit. Credit's a funny thing. You can keep as much as you want, or you can give as much as you want away. And I really believe the more credit you give away, the more you receive. There'll be plenty of credit to go around for everybody. But that is on the list for the next phase. What we have run into on college right now, we're into an area which is it's very narrow. It's choked. So you're going to have to figure a way to get through that. And I've got the engineering and the planners working on that right now. When you get on up to North Street, then it widens out again. Now we can start on North Street and go down, and we can look at that. But I certainly want the businesses to do well. But a lot of those businesses, when some folks came to me and they said, "Why don't you just get rid of all the used car lots?" Well, those folks are zoned and they are a business, and they have a right to stay there as long as it's zoned correctly. So it's not like you can just start shutting down used car lots so you can widen the road or plant trees or hope another business comes in. But we are looking at making improvements to College Avenue along with the other street improvements in the next part of the phase of the bond program.
One thing that's very important to do is to follow the downtown master plan, because we brought 1,000 people in from around the city over several months, and we designed our street cross sections and profiles. I would like to see us start following those again. Block Street is a complete divergent program from what the public wanted. If you look at Township, we have a 3-lane continuous turn lane on Township. The lanes are too wide. We wasted a lot of asphalt. There are 2 sidewalks, but there's no bike lanes like there should be. There's no trail that had an opportunity. Instead of moving the power lines to the mid-block easement, there's small lines that could have been buried. All we did was just take down the old poles, move the new poles over 20 feet, put new poles back up. We missed a huge opportunity. And that was designed in the middle of 2009. And I just think that if we continue to do things without really thinking about what's possible, we'll look up one day and say, you know, the streets are wider, but they're just as ugly as they've ever been. Instead of doing things that we can really think ahead and take the extra trouble to get the power lines off, put the bike lanes in, put wider sidewalks in, plant the trees, and then from then on, that street will be an asset for this community. It won't just move traffic. It'll be a beautiful way for people to get around, more so than just driving.
Thank you.
Well, I do take issue with it's not being designed according to the downtown master plan. My planner, Jeremy Pate, I have all the confidence in the world, and when he brings that forward, it's not like that I shut that plan down. I assume that he knows what he's doing. That's why we hire these wonderful staff people, and we let them do what they do best. I don't micromanage the staff. They come in and say, "Mayor, according to the downtown master plan, we're going to do this, this, and this." I look at it, and I approve that. Block Street, I'm going to take full responsibility for Block Street. I do. They brought it in, I approved it, they took it to the street committee, and they passed it. But I'm the mayor of this city, and I take responsibility for the staff and what they do.
Thank you. A little more specific this time. Fayetteville has long been identified as a community interested in trees and forests. While we're planting many trees each year, many do not survive. Do you have a plan to increase the survival of trees planted? And do you have a plan to increase the total urban tree canopy of Fayetteville, which is well below the national average of 35%?
Who's first?
Am I first? Okay. Yeah, and a lot of the trees that we planted, great effort, but they were planted in people's yards. They didn't take care of them. They died. I drive through neighborhoods and I see just stands of dead young trees that we spent a lot of money on that weren't watered in the drought. So my idea would be, instead of putting them out on the edges of the city, I'm talking about within 50 feet of the city limits, plant our trees down here on our thoroughfares to where we can all enjoy them. If people have subdivisions and they have yards and they want trees, I welcome them to put trees in. But if they're at the city, the taxpayer puts a tree in there and they don't take care of it, what have we accomplished? I would rather put them in places where we can all enjoy the beauty and we can take care of them to where we know they're going to have a foothold. They need to be watered for 3 years. Any new tree needs to be watered for at least 3 years, especially in the season, in the droughts that we have. Our tree canopy, we've had, when I was in office, we added roughly just under 700 acres of new parkland, green space, and environmental area to the city's inventory. Not all of it owned by the city, but the vast majority of it owned by the city, and some of it owned by private conservation groups. So there's a wetland, or I hope there's a question about wetlands, because this is something that's very important. Tree canopy is very important, but our wetlands have, they're really important as well. And we have the potential for, I call it a wetland perpetual motion machine, because there are ways that we can use the Woolsey Wet Prairie wetland credits that we have there, sell the credits to the highway department, for example, if they need to buy credits, and these credits are very expensive. Use those credits to buy more land, perhaps the land out here at Wilson Springs, that 120 acres that's sitting there fallow that needs to be redeveloped. And then redevelop that land, develop more credits, sell those credits, buy some more land, redevelop that. So this is something that needs to be done, and our land out there, the credits that we have out there at Woolsey Wet Prairie, aren't even on the market. And they need to be sold so we can use that money and continue that. It's not just trees we need to worry about, it's our whole ecosystem, and that's part of this comprehensive sustainability. It's not just energy efficiency, it's not just trees, it's not just food, it's wetland, it's our atmosphere, it's carbon reduction, it's all of it put together. Because if you just look at one aspect of it and just focus on one aspect and the other 10 aspects aren't addressed, then we're not going to make the kind of headway that we need to. And once Fayetteville develops a comprehensive sustainability program, take it to the next level, then we'll begin again to be a leader in the nation. And Fayetteville, Arkansas will continue to attract the people who are concerned about sustainability and concerned about the arts and concerned about technology, and that's going to help ensure our future.
Thank you.
Well, I'd like for you to repeat that question. We went from planting trees to the wetlands. Would you?
Fayetteville has long been identified as a community interested in trees and forests.
Absolutely.
While we're planting many trees each year, many do not survive. Do you have a plan to increase the survival of trees planted? And do you have a plan to increase the total urban tree canopy of Fayetteville, which is well below the national average of 35%?
Absolutely. We are once again one of the Tree City USA awards recipients, and we value our trees. Let me tell you about the trees. When we had that ice storm, all the tops from all those trees, you know what we could have done? We could have burned them like everybody else did in the region, but we didn't burn them. We mulched them and reused those tree tops. We value the trees in this city. I do. I try to save every tree that I possibly can. Now, I started a program when I ran for this office, which is the mayor's urban forest and prairie plantings. First of all, in Wilson Springs, if we hadn't have sold it to begin with, we wouldn't have to be worrying about replanting it. I didn't vote to sell that piece of property, but it got sold. But this was some of the most beautiful wetlands and one of the best in the state, and we sold that. And now you got houses sitting there where we should have been able preserving those wetlands. Mm-hmm. But anyway. We plant the trees, and we got an award from American Bloom last year, ground cover and plantings, and it was a great award because of the trees that we are planting. We go back to the parks, and instead of doing all the grass, what I like to do is see us plant it back in trees and begin to eliminate a lot of the grass from the parks, and we are on that program right now. I've been on it since 2009. We're replacing the grass where you have to use mowers and stuff that creates the emissions that goes into the atmosphere, the CO2 emissions. And we put in place of that community gardens, Arkansas prairie grasses that we've lost, and trees. So we value the trees, we value the wetlands, and the reason we have not sold those wetlands out there at the Wilson Springs area is because the market has not been good enough to do that. When it gets to a certain point, you don't want to put those out on the market for nothing. You need to have a good, solid market for those. Dave Juergens has been working on that, and I think we're going to be able to put those on the market, but you just don't want to put them on the market right now that I've been advised. So we haven't.
They're not even advertised for sale. There's a Wetland Mitigation Bank website with the State Department of Wetland, ADF, Arkansas Department of Environmental Quality, and they're not even on the market. You set the price. You don't have to take just whatever's offered. But if somebody needed to have them, we're some of the only wetlands in this region. So if they need to buy within the region, they can't go to North Dakota and buy wetlands. They need to buy within the region. They don't even know there's wetland credits. They aren't buying the wetlands. The wetlands stay ours. They're just buying the credits. We would get the money and then buy more land, develop that, get more credits, buy more land. The land stays ours. We're just selling the credit. And I think that's important for us to do.
Thank you.
Dave Juergens told me that they are advertised, that they know that they are on the market, so I don't know. I'm just telling you what he told me.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'm afraid if we're to stay on track and each of you is to have your 3-minute final closing statement, there is no more time for questions. So I believe that, Mr. Cootie, you have the honor of the first closing statement.
Yeah, and I appreciate everyone coming out here tonight. This is an important election. First, I've got to say that I want us to be elevating the conversation. I mean, we can look at this. Fayetteville's economics, the economics of Fayetteville have been strong for decades. I inherited a strong budget from Fred Hanna. Lionel inherited a strong budget from me. There's a strong budget going on now, and you can look at the facts. And it's in very good shape. As a matter of fact, the $172 million revolving loan fund for the wastewater treatment plant gets paid off 90% of it next October, a year from now, and then the next October it's completely paid off. These are all issues that were approved by the City Council. So if there, number one, if I developed a disaster, it was at the direction of the City Council. But the truth is, there was no disaster. It was very well handled. With the same staff you have now is the same staff I had. So if they were good, if they're good now, they were good then as well. But we need to be elevating the conversation, not just on past budgets and who gets credit and all this. We need to be talking about a huge vision for this town and what direction we're going. Many people feel like it's kind of rudderless right now. Like, I mean, when I ask people, when people ask me, when I ask them, what do you see happening in Fayetteville? They talk about the paid parking and they talk about the back-end situation on Block Street. And I say, name a third thing that you can think of that's impacted your life in Fayetteville. A third change that you see every day. And they really can't do it. And we've got to be back on track to really drive home and bring together the creativity and innovation that this town's known for and put together the arts, technology. I mean, the Theater Squared's doing phenomenal work. The artists here in town, they've come into their own because of this new vibe that didn't just start a year ago. It's been building for quite a while. If we focus on music, theater, and now film is beginning to take a foothold in town, and the arts and art itself, that and research technology, if we focus on those things and then rebuilding College Avenue, expanding our trail system, doing this wetland mitigation banking to where we can really focus on working closely with Northwest Arkansas, being a real part of Northwest Arkansas. Bentonville's going to be the home of the retail industry, Lowell for logistics, Springdale for the meat production in one of the biggest in the world. And then if we in Fayetteville focus on research technology coupled with the university, those four columns will make this town strong and our economy stronger. We have been recession-proof for a long time because of the university. We should take advantage of our strong economy and really take it to the next level with the arts and with technology. I'm really super psyched about what the potential is here. But first you have to recognize the potential. Then you have to try to seize it and that's something I'm good at.
Thank you. Mayor Jordan?
Well, let's talk about 3 things that I did do. For 10 years, we talked about a hotel. We have one sitting off the square right now. For 20 years, we talked about a parking deck in the downtown area. Was that easy? Does anybody in this room think if you decide that you have free parking, you start charging folks, it's going to make you extremely popular? But it had to be done, and somebody had to have the political will to do it instead of talking about it for 10 years. Also, we have a deed to the regional park. Folks, I negotiated with the bank for a year to get the 200 acres and the deed for that park. He said they gave it to us. We didn't have it. It went bankrupt. I had to go back and negotiate that. Now we have the deed to the 2-acre park, so that's another thing. I worked to establish a 34-mile regional trail system from one end of this town all the way through Bentonville. That's a third thing. And folks, you haven't seen any rusty cranes and holes in the ground. You haven't seen any bankrupt parks. Because I realize that I voted for that TIF, and I'm going to tell you, just like I told you in 2008, I made a mistake. Bobby Farrell did try to tell us, and I didn't listen. I did make a mistake. I admitted to that, and if you notice, under my administration, there's not been any TIF bonds. Now, as far as the way I run the government, I have 3 guiding principles. We believe in an open door where everybody's accepted. We believe in an open mind where people have a right to express themselves. And we believe in an open heart where we serve rather than being served. That's what I do. You see, folks, I may not be the smartest mayor you've ever had, but I serve. And you know why I serve? Because I love this city. I've lived here. I'm 4th generation Arkansan in this city. I love it, and I want to protect it, and I want to serve it. You see, anybody can talk about all these great visions, but at the end of the day, you've got to have a servant's heart, and you've got to be willing to serve the people and put other people above yourself. I go to work at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I work till I'm done. And you know why I do that? Because I want to give this city the very best I can and serve the people to the best of my ability. And at the end of the day, they'll never remember me for being the smartest mayor they ever had. But I hope I'm remembered for being a mayor that loved his city and loved serving it and treated everybody just the same, because I believe everybody's a part owner of this city. And together, we will make it better and take it to another level. I hope you vote for me in November. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Seems like I have an appetite for more questions, but that'll be another night, supposedly. We have the opportunity now to meet our ward candidates. And Mr. Don Connor, Vice Chair of Fayetteville Council of Neighborhoods, will make the introductions, and I think he's going to begin with Ward 1. Right.
Yes, I'm just going to call the ward candidates up one at a time. We'll start with Ward 1, Position 2, that's Sarah Marsh. If she wants to give a couple of minutes, tell us a little bit about herself and her platform, and then we'll go on to Ward 2. Is Sarah Marsh here? Nope. Okay, Ward 2, Matthew Petty. Matthew. Oh, okay. Adam Firecat. Matthew, come up here. Yeah, stand behind the podium. That way the microphone can hear you.
All right. Good evening, folks. My name is Matthew Petty. I'm the current Ward 2 alderman. Only have about 2 minutes, so I want to keep this kind of brief. If you go to my website, you can view my full platform where I talk about a range of issues. I have very specific plans. That's what I've tailored my platform to be. I don't want it to be general. I want it to be very specific. So I have specific plans for making Midtown walkable, connecting more of our neighborhoods to our trails in a more cost-effective manner, and many other things. There is one item on my platform that I'm very excited about that I want to tell you about, which is called participatory budgeting. It's a concept that is used in just a few other American cities now. It's brand new. The gist of it is that we take a portion of our capital improvements budget, the portion that Ward 2 controls. We take just a little bit of that and we give it to the Ward 2 citizens for direct control so that they can make the decisions. In order to do it, we'd have to make sure that every neighborhood could participate so that we could make sure that those decisions that they made for the portion of the budget were representative of the neighborhood as a whole. But if we did that, it would be absolutely revolutionary. It's direct democracy, and it would put the power of government back in your hands. I think it's extremely important. My plan is to do that in 2014, the first year, and my colleague Mark Kenyon has already endorsed the idea if I'm reelected. Thank you.
Adam Firecat, did he show? Nope. Okay. Ryan Absher. Get up here. Show us what you got.
Thanks everybody for coming out. My name is Ryan Abshire. I'm a small business owner. I have a business down on Center Street, and I'm a bartender here on Dixon. Some problems I have, and why I'm running for office, I think people get focused too often on what I call pothole politics. We focus on small issues rather than asking questions about things like the 25% arrest increase in non-DWI arrests this year up to the second quarter, public safety, working with businesses rather than against them, and trying to get people involved. On the state seal of Arkansas, we've got regnet populist, meaning the rule by the people, and the people rule. So at the end of the day, you have to ask questions rather than looking for someone who has all the answers. Try to ask the right questions. Everybody can get involved. And ask not necessarily about how the city looks or how it looks to outsiders, but how it affects people that live here, how our day-to-day lives are changed. I don't necessarily have all the answers, but I like to ask a few questions, and I appreciate you guys coming out. Also, tell your friends, your kids, your neighbors, you need to be registered to vote by October 7th. A lot of people don't realize if you're not registered by October 7th, you can't vote for anything on November 6th. So thanks a lot.
Ward 3, did Martin Schottmeyer show up? Nope. Okay, Ward 4 now. This one's got a lot of them. Terry Coberly.
Thank you for coming, and I appreciate this opportunity to tell you that I am Terry Coberly, and I'm running for Ward 4, Position 2 Alderman. My husband Jody and I bought a house on Razorback Road about 2 years ago, and we moved down here to restore that historic home and be close to the University of Arkansas, where I graduated. And I am a retired school teacher. I taught high school at Bentonville for 16 years, and I taught at J.O. Kelly Middle School in Springdale for 2 years. In addition to that, I served as city clerk of the city of Bentonville for 9 years and was the mayor of the city of Bentonville for 12 years. That makes me sound a little older than I am because the city clerk was a part-time position, so when you start adding that all up. But nevertheless, I was also on the executive committee of Arkansas Municipal League for 12 years and was the president of the league in 2005. So I have worked in municipal government for many, many years and with elected officials from across Arkansas's 500 cities. So I have a vast experience in municipal government. When Sarah Lewis decided not to run, when I read that in the paper, I thought, well, wow, this is what I know about and care about and what I have a lot of experience in. So I'm offering you my experience, and I think it's the best way I can serve my new city now. And I would appreciate your vote in November or October if you vote early. Thank you.
Alan Long. Alan Long. There you are. Lost him over.
Hi there, my name's Alan Long, and I'm running as well for Ward 4 City Council, position 2 here in Fayetteville. I'm a native Arkansan. I moved to Fayetteville a little bit over 10 years ago, and I moved here to get my education at the University of Arkansas. My master's degree was in business, and after finishing that, Fayetteville couldn't get rid of me, so I decided to stick around. I love Fayetteville. I've been involved in different Fayetteville policies. I started the Friends of the Fayetteville Animal Shelter in 2009. It's a nonprofit I care a great deal about. I also have had the opportunity to serve as the Animal Services Advisory Board Chairman for the City of Fayetteville for the last 2 years, and I've been on the board for 2 years before that. And I've also been very involved in the Fayetteville Council of Neighborhoods, and I enjoy being a representative of our neighborhood and bringing those concerns to the City Council. Fayetteville and the citizens here have added so much to my quality of life. It's with that great sense of appreciation that I ask for your support in the upcoming November election. Thank you.
I don't believe William Chester's here. He had parent-teacher conferences. And he's the teacher. So we got J.P. Peters.
Hello, my name is J.P. Peters, and I would like to, first of all, thank my committee, the Fayetteville Council of Neighborhoods, for sponsoring this meeting this afternoon. I don't know about you, but I'm still thinking about the mayoral race debate just a moment ago. But I am a native Arkansan. I'm from Clarksville, Arkansas, and I've been in Fayetteville. This is my second time to live in Fayetteville. I came back the second time in December of 2006. And everybody asked me why I am running for city council. Matter of fact, they've been telling me, you know, why are you wanting to run? Because all you'll receive is complaints. So I tell them that I've been on the Fayetteville Council of Neighborhoods for quite a number of years, and I've already been receiving some of those complaints and some of those concerns and issues. So if you're on the council, you get those calls. And it covers a wide variety of issues in terms of parked cars or trash or unkept lots and things of that nature. One of the best things that I have about running for this campaign has been knocking on those doors and talking with individuals and finding out what is of concern to them, what their issues are. And it's quite different from you when you talk with individuals on the west side of 540 as opposed to those on the east side of 540. So it's told me that all things, politics is all things is local. So that's been the best part of running for this position. A little bit about my background. I started working with the federal government at an early age. I worked with the Social Security Administration and the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS. And I was over all the regional offices and CMS's regional offices in terms of Medicaid fraud and abuse. That's my background, is in program integrity and fraud and abuse. During those years, I worked with state and local governments and government officials and legislators for all those years in terms of the Medicaid program, CHIP program, and other programs that CMS administers. I've got a wide background in terms of health care and the program integrity aspect of it, and also in terms of the fiscal budget as well. I worked with the state of Texas, and who is arguably the largest Medicaid program in the country, and therefore had the largest budget as well. I also had the honor of working for my own state of Arkansas as state rep, and was able to approve millions of dollars for the Medicaid program, the CHIP program, and other programs that we administered that came into the state. I was also honored last year to work in Little Rock quite a bit. I took kind of a vacation from the council to live in Little Rock and work with the state officials on the health benefits exchange. And that you've probably been reading about quite a bit. One of the reasons why some of the things that I am concerned about, and as far as Ward 4 is concerned, is some of the safety issues in terms of, and particularly the Weddington Drive Bridge overpass. We have a lot of people that have moved in West Fayetteville and a lot of students that live in West Fayetteville, and there's safety issues in terms of foot traffic and bicycle traffic over the Weddington Drive Bridge. So we're working on that to try to find fundings to expand that bridge to accommodate a walking path or a pedestrian path, so students can get back and forth to the university a lot safer. I'm also very excited about the Weddington Drive corridor study that is going underway, and I believe those meetings are going to be starting next month. So I would encourage everybody to come out and voice your opinion and your input on that particular study. We talked about the Town and Gown. I think the Town and Gown Advisory Committee is going to be great in terms of helping city council members in terms of making decisions. We have also, there's a lot of other issues that we could cover, but other issues that I'm concerned about and what I am hearing about from residents in that area is the lack of transportation, the lack of bus stops, and the lack of lighting in West Fayetteville as well. So those are some of the issues that I'm concerned about and would like to continue addressing. And I would appreciate your vote. Early voting starts October the 22nd, and I'd appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
And is Michael Emery here?
All right, well, thank you all for coming, and thank you all for hosting this event tonight. My name is Mike Emery. I have lived in Fayetteville since early 2007 when I moved here from Joplin. Grew up in northeast Oklahoma, so not technically a native to Arkansas, but regionally is still home. I fell in love with this town the moment I moved here. I am a 10-year veteran of the Air Force, a combat veteran injured in the line of duty. I deployed to Desert Storm, Bosnia, some support operations for Somalia, and a few other places. That is primarily my public service. I don't have any political experience per se outside of this, but I don't think that should be a detriment. I intend to bring a common sense, common person approach to the council that I think most people will identify with, because not all of us have a great deal of money. There are still job issues going on out there. There's infrastructure problems throughout the city, particularly with Ward 4. I live west of 540, and JP was right. There are times when it does seem like a different town from the rest of the city. I want to change that. We need more connectivity with it, especially with trails going east to west. The north-south system we have is one of the best I've ever seen. I've traveled 16 countries, 32 states. I've seen exactly how nice we do have it here, and I want to see that we do keep it here while moving forward, and I know that we can. And I think it's just comes down to logical cooperation between everybody and communication between your government and all of the citizens. You can't go into have any segment of your population blind on any issue. If it takes going door to door before any council vote, you should have input from everybody. So I thank you again for the time to do this, and I would appreciate your consideration in November. Thank you.
That's all the ward candidates. Richard, back to you.
Well, I want to thank you all for coming tonight. I'd like to put in a plug for Fayetteville Council of Neighborhoods. We meet on the last Thursday of every month, and I have a strong feeling that many of you have specific interests in your own neighborhoods, and the council would welcome your observations, and so come and meet with us and share your experience and be a part of the Fayetteville Council of Neighborhoods. I guess that's all. being told we have a motto. Now, this may sound a little strange to you. It says, "Together we will make a difference." So, meeting is closed. Thank you.